Hi and welcome back to Oddcraft. In this episode we're getting started with the animation program. There are many apps out there that let you create sprite animations, from Adobe Animate, Clip to Playback and Toonsquid. I've worked mostly with Adobe in the past, but as I've mentioned before, I've switched to Toonsquid for this series. Even so, everything I'll explain here will help you understand the foundations that apply to any animation software. Let's begin with the basics. When you open an app like Toonsquid, you'll see your workspace, the area where you view your animation. But the most important part of any animation program is the timeline. Now, in basic terms, an animation is simply a sequence of frames arranged over time. Each frame represents a single image, and by adding new frames, you extend your animation. The timeline cursor right here lets you move back and forth through those frames, so that you can preview your animation. Right now, our project has no frames. So let's extend it to about 90 frames. So I have this nice option where I can extend it. Let me correct it. 90 frames. There you go. Since this project is set to right here 30 frames per second, that gives us a total of 3 seconds of animation. If you lower the frame rate, you will use fewer drawings, making the animation more laggy, but that can have a nice aesthetic. And if you increase it, the motion becomes smoother and more fluid. So let's just stay at 30 frames per second. So in the end, no matter which app you're using, the timeline is at the heart of the animation process. Once you understand how frames and timing work, here you can apply those same principles anywhere. But that's just the beginning. Let's talk about layers. Think of them as transparent sheets stacked on top of each other. Each layer can hold a different part of your animation. Maybe your background on one, your character on another, and effects on top. The same idea applies in almost any animation app, not just Toonsquid. You can add or remove layers. Just simply tap this plus sign to add one layer or two layers. You can remove them again by sliding to the left, like this in Toonsquid. And this eye symbol, with this you can turn them invisible. And if you tap on the layer itself, it shows several options. Now, one interesting thing to do is to lock your layer, which prevents it from being modified by accident. You can also unlock it again. You can rearrange the order, of course, of the layers, and this will keep things organized and make your animation cleaner and easier to adjust. Now again, if you tap on the layer, several options. There's a few that are quite obvious and self-explanatory, others not so much, but we'll cover those later on. Now let's move on to the toolbar on the left. While we're focusing on sprite animation, apps like Toonsquid are primarily designed for hand-drawn animation. That's why you see tools like the brush tool or the path tool or something like the bucket or fill tool. Now these are great for creating original hand-drawn animation, and I encourage you to experiment with them. But for our pixelated sprite work, we won't need them much. We mainly use the selection tool at the top here, since we'll be working with pre-made graphics and symbols. As long as that one's selected, we're good to go. Let's get back to the timeline for a moment. Here in the middle you notice a few symbols. These are your playback controls. Whenever you want to preview your animation, just hit the play button here in the center. The icons on either side jump to the very beginning or the very end of your timeline. These controls might look a little different depending on which animation app you're using, but they all serve the same purpose. Just to the left there's also a loop button, super handy when working with short clips that you want to preview and repeat. And next to it is the onion skin toggle, another important feature, but we'll save that topic for a future episode. And over on the far left, you'll find buttons that move forward or backwards by a single frame on the timeline. It's quite useful when you need to select the right frame. I always struggle tapping on the right frame with my finger, so I should probably use these controls more often. Alright, before we wrap up, let's quickly look at how to import a sprite image into Toonsquid. Sprite animations are all about bringing pixel graphics into the animation workspace. Let's start fresh by creating a new project. So you just go back to the main menu by tapping Projects, and then you will have to tap the plus icon here on the right corner. And then you will give your project a name. I will just call it demo in this case. And most importantly, you're gonna have to set the resolution. Now for this example, I'll go with a very small canvas, so 128 by 128. And I will keep the frame rate at 30 frames per second. Now, then I will just create the project, and here we are. We have a clean slate. Now first we will erase the timeline, and then to import a sprite you will have to tap the plus sign here in the lower left corner, and you will select image, and I will then now import an image from my files app, and I will use a recent Sonic frame. Here we go, this one, and just like that it appears in the workspace. With the selection tool active, I can already move him around the canvas. And that's it for this episode. We've covered the basics of Toonsquid, how the timeline works, what layers do, and how to bring in your first sprites. Even though Toonsquid is iPad only, the same principles apply in apps like Adobe Animate, Flipperclip, or even Playback. So if you're using one of those, you still have your foundations. In the next episode we'll dive into keyframes. That'll probably take a whole video to explain properly, but I believe it's very much needed. Until then, have fun experimenting, get comfortable with your animation software, and don't hesitate to play around. It's all part of the creative process. Take care, and I'll see you then.